The Book of Genesis. The Book of Genesis, the Masoretic text in its present state. Chapter 1. In the beginning, Elohim created the heaven and the earth. And the earth was waste and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep. And the Spirit of Elohim moved upon the face of the waters. And Elohim said, Let there be light. And there was light. And Elohim saw the light, that it was good. And Elohim divided the light from the darkness. And Elohim called the light day, and the darkness he called night. And there was evening, and there was morning, one day. And Elohim said, Let there be a firmament in the midst of the waters, and let it divide the waters from the waters. And it was so. And Elohim made the firmament, and divided the waters which were under the firmament from the waters which were above the firmament. And Elohim saw the firmament, that it was good. And Elohim called the firmament heaven. And there was evening, and there was morning, a second day. And Elohim said, Let the waters under the heaven be gathered together unto one place, and let the dry land appear. And it was so. And Elohim called the dry land earth, and the gathering together of the waters called he seas. And Elohim saw that it was good. And Elohim said, Let the earth put forth grass, herb yielding seed, and fruit tree bearing fruit after its kind, wherein is the seed thereof upon the earth. And it was so. And the earth brought forth grass, herb yielding seed after its kind, and tree bearing fruit, wherein is the seed thereof after its kind. And Elohim saw that it was good. And there was evening, and there was morning, a third day. And Elohim said, Let there be lights in the firmament of the heaven, to divide the day from the night, and let them be for signs and for seasons, and for days and years. And let them be for lights in the firmament of the heaven, to give light upon the earth. And it was so. And Elohim made the two great lights, the greater light to rule the day, and the lesser light to rule the night. He made the stars also. And Elohim set them in the firmament of the heaven, to give light upon the earth, and to rule over the day and over the night, and to divide the light from the darkness. And Elohim saw that it was good. And there was evening, and there was morning, a fourth day. And Elohim said, Let the waters swarm with a living pullulation, and let fowl fly above the earth towards the face of the firmament of heaven. And it was so. And Elohim created the great sea monsters, and all the living and creeping things with which the waters swarm, after their kinds, and every winged fowl after its kind. And Elohim saw that it was good. And Elohim blessed them, saying, Be fruitful, and multiply, and fill the waters in the seas, and let fowl multiply in the earth. And there was evening, and there was morning, a fifth day. And Elohim said, Let the earth bring forth the living creature after its kind, cattle, and creeping thing, and beast of the earth after its kind. And it was so. And Elohim made the beast of the earth after its kind, and the cattle after their kind, and everything that creepeth upon the ground after its kind. And Elohim saw that it was good. And Elohim said, Let us make man in our image, after our likeness. And let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the fowl of the air, and over the cattle, and over every beast of the earth, and over every creeping thing that creepeth upon the earth. And Elohim created man in his own image. In the image of Elohim created he him. Male and female created he them. And Elohim blessed them. And Elohim said unto them, Be fruitful, and multiply, and replenish the earth, and subdue it, and have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the fowl of the air, and over every living thing that moveth upon the earth. And Elohim said, Behold, I have given you every herb yielding seed, which is upon the face of all the earth, and every tree in which is the fruit of a tree yielding seed. To you it shall be for meat. And to every beast of the earth, and to every fowl of the air, and to everything that creepeth upon the earth, wherein there is the breath of life, I have given every green herb for meat. And it was so. And Elohim saw everything that he had made, and, behold, it was very good. And there was evening, and there was morning, the sixth day. And the heaven and the earth were finished, and all the host of them. And on the seventh day Elohim finished his work which he had made. And he rested on the seventh day from all his work which he had made. And Elohim blessed the seventh day, and hallowed it, because that in it he rested from all his work which Elohim had created and made. These are the genealogies of the heaven and of the earth when they were created. According to our image and likeness, Zelem means a shadow, hence an image from its shadowing forth. In 2 Kings it means idols. Demuth is likeness, likeness in form. It occurs again in this sense in Psalms and Ezekiel. Maimonides explains this to refer not to any corporeal resemblance, but to the divine intellect, philosophically the active as distinguished from the passive intellect, which has been imparted to man. Nefesh ayah. Nefesh is a word, the primary meaning of which is the vital principle common to all living beings. It means here breath of life. The karpos, order, which adds, and God finished on the sixth day his works which he made. This portion of the verse gives us the invariable form in which the titles of every section of the book of genealogies consisting the Elohistic document begin. It ought to have preceded the history of the creation, which forms the first chapter in the present state of the text. But the editor who finally combined the Elohistic and Jehovistic documents has placed it at the end. It is evident that he wished to begin the sacred book by affirming the doctrine of the creation ex nihilo, or ex nihilo, contained in chapter 1, in opposition to the doctrines of emanation which were held by the pagan nations by whom the Israelites were surrounded. Philo, however, and the Alexandrian Jews saw nothing in the Mosaic cosmogony inconsistent with the pre-existence of matter. Philo, on the incorruptibility of the world, says, As nothing is generated out of nothing, so neither can anything which exists be destroyed, so as to become non-existence. For it is impossible that anything should be generated of that which has no existence anywhere, and equally so that what does exist should be so utterly destroyed as never to be mentioned or heard of again. And indeed, in this spirit, the tragedian says, Not that e'er has been, completely dies but things combined, before another union find, quitting their former company, and so again in other forms are seen. From Euripides, Chrysippus. In the day that Yahweh Elohim made earth and heaven, no bush of the field was yet in the earth, and no herb of the field had yet sprung up, for Yahweh Elohim had not caused it to rain upon the earth, and there was not a man to till the ground. But there went up a mist from the earth, and watered the whole face of the ground. And Yahweh Elohim formed man of the dust of the ground, and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life, and man became a living soul. And Yahweh Elohim planted a garden eastward in Eden, and there he put the man whom he had formed. And out of the ground made Yahweh Elohim to grow every tree that is pleasant to the sight, and good for food, the tree of life also in the midst of the garden, and the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. And a river went out of Eden to water the garden, and from thence it was parted, and became 4 heads. The name of the first is Pishon. That is it which compasseth the whole land of Havilah, where there is gold. And the gold of that land is good. There is the Badolalah and the Shoham stone. And the name of the second river is Kihon. The same is it that encompasseth the whole land of Cush. And the name of the third river is Hiddekel. That is it which goeth in front of Ashir. And the fourth river is the Phrath, or Euphrates. And Yahweh Elohim took the man, and put him into the garden of Eden to dress it, and to keep it. And Yahweh Elohim commanded the man, saying, Of every tree of the garden thou mayest freely eat, but of the tree of knowledge of good and evil thou shalt not eat of it, for in the day that thou eatest thereof thou shalt surely die. And Yahweh Elohim said, It is not good that the man should be alone. I will make him an help, answering to him. And out of the ground Yahweh Elohim formed every beast of the field, and every fowl of the air, and brought them unto the man to see what he would call them. And whatsoever the man called every living creature, that was the name thereof. And the man gave names to all cattle, and to the fowl of the air, and to every beast of the field. But for man there was not found an help meet for him. And Yahweh Elohim caused a deep sleep to fall upon the man, and he slept. And he took one of his ribs, and closed up the flesh instead thereof. And the rib which Yahweh Elohim had taken from the man made he a woman, and brought her unto the man. And the man said, This is now bone of my bones, and flesh of my flesh. She shall be called woman, Ishah, because she was taken out of man, Ish. Therefore shall a man leave his father and his mother, and shall cleave unto his wife, and they shall be one flesh. And they were both naked, the man and his wife, and were not ashamed. Chapter 3. Now the serpent was more subtle than any beast of the field which Yahweh Elohim had made. And he said unto the woman, Yea, hath Elohim said, Ye shall not eat of any tree of the garden? And the woman said unto the serpent, Of the fruit of the trees of the garden we may eat, but of the fruit of the tree which is in the midst of the garden, Elohim hath said, Ye shall not eat of it, neither shall ye touch it, lest ye die. And the serpent said unto the woman, Ye shall not surely die, for Elohim doth know that in the day ye eat thereof, then your eyes shall be opened, and ye shall be as Elohim, knowing good and evil. And when the woman saw that the tree was good for food, and that it was a delight to the eyes, and that the tree was to be desired to make one wise, she took of the fruit thereof, and did eat. And she gave also to her husband with her, and he did eat. And the eyes of both of them were opened, and they knew that they were naked, and they sewed fig leaves together, and made themselves girdles. And they heard the voice of Yahweh Elohim in the breeze of the evening. And the man and his wife hid themselves from the presence of Yahweh Elohim amongst the trees of the garden. And Yahweh Elohim called unto the man, and said unto him, Where art thou? And he said, I heard thy voice in the garden, and I was afraid because I was naked, and I hid myself. And he said, Who told thee that thou wast naked? Hast thou eaten of the tree whereof I commanded thee, that thou shouldest not eat? And the man said, The woman whom thou gavest to be with me, she gave me of the tree, and I did eat. And Yahweh Elohim said unto the woman, What is this that thou hast done? And the woman said, The serpent beguiled me, and I did eat. And Yahweh Elohim said unto the serpent, Because thou hast done this, cursed art thou from among all cattle, and from among every beast of the field. Upon thy belly shalt thou go, and dust shalt thou eat all the days of thy life. And I will put enmity between thee and the woman, and between thy seed and her seed. It shall bruise thy head, and thou shalt bruise his heel. Upon thy breast and belly he shall keep watch against thy head, and thou shalt keep his heel. No serpent could bruise a person's head. Josephus says that all living creatures at this time were able to speak and had one language. He attributes the fall to the serpent's envy of the happiness of Adam and Eve. God, he says, deprived the serpent of speech and put poison under his tongue, not knowing that out of some 1,000 varieties of serpents, perhaps 1/2 are not poisonous. Certain land snakes use the tongue to bring into the mouth stones, sand, etc., which they swallow to promote digestion, which has been mistaken for eating dust. Professor Owen has shown in his description of the Ophidia, in allusion to the text, Upon thy belly shalt thou go, that serpents have not been degraded from a higher type, and that no animal has its parts more exquisitely adapted to its necessities. M. Lenormant observes in The Origins of History that the serpent has been assuredly a symbol of life for the Chaldeo-Assyrians. One of its generic names is in the Semitic Assyrian language is Havav, in Arabic Hayah, both from the root Hava, to live. The brazen serpent of Numbers, which Yahweh himself ordered Moses to make, was an emblem of Yahweh as a healing deity. This serpent continued to be an object of popular worship until the time of Hezekiah, who broke it in pieces because the Israelites burnt incense to it up to that time. And he called it Nehushtan, that is, brazen. Roos has observed that there is a pun here, for serpent is called Nahash and brass of Nahosheth. There is no mention of the devil in connection with the serpent until the apocryphal Book of Wisdom, which is of later date than the Septuagint. Even this seems to be figurative. In Ecclesiastes, it is said, The covenant from the beginning is, Thou shalt die the death. And it is said, When the ungodly curseth Satan, he curseth his own soul. Lenormant says, One of the images of Malak Baal, the third person of the Phoenician triad, is the Nebuchadnezzar, the savior serpent, whose image Moses set up in the desert. The rabbis attributed Adam's fall to the envy of the angels, who, having in vain tried to prevent the creation of man, led him in by means of Samael and his angels, who were superior to them, and who employed the serpent as his instrument. If Adam had not sinned, he would have lived forever, according to some. The immediate consequence of Adam's sin was that the Shekinah was withdrawn from earth to the first heaven, and subsequent sins caused it to be removed to the seventh heaven. The Shekinah was a light created expressly in order to represent the divine majesty. The Talmud says that God originally offered the law to all Gentile nations, but they, having refused to submit, Israel took the law on themselves at Mount Sinai, and were literally, as Psalms describes, I said, Ye are Elohim, and all of you sons of Elyon, the Most High. If it had not been for the golden calf which put an end to this state of bliss, that generation would have seen the end of Israel. Dr. Donaldson has a dissertation on this verse, in which he shows from Jeremiah and Nahum the real meaning of the word translated bread, the real meaning of the word translated heal. The same word is used for the tree of life that is used in chapters 1, 2, etc., for fruit-bearing and other trees in general. The idea of a tree of life is common to many nations, and everywhere it is the increase of vital energy given by the intoxicating powers of the fruit which has made semi-barbarous nations believe in a promise of immortality conveyed by it. In Aria, or Area, we have the Soma, the Asclepios acidula, or acidula. In Babylonia, the palm, and the Akkadian inscriptions show us that ancient people gave the name Gestin, the tree of life, to the vine. R. Meyer taught that the tree Adam partook of was the vine, for nothing entices man so much as wine, of which it is said, "And he drank of the vine and was drunken." In the LXX, this verse is, "And he cast out Adam and caused him to dwell over against the garden of delight, and stationed the cherubs and the fiery sword that turns about to keep the way of the tree of life." There seems to be no doubt that the cherubim are of Babylonian origin, and identical with the winged colossal bulls. M. Lenormant says that upon an unedited parallel inscription in the possession of M. Leclerc in Paris, the legend on Kiribu Damku, the exalted cherub, appears. In Ezekiel 1:10, the cherubim have the face of a bull. Ezekiel represents them in chapter 1:6 as having 4 faces, but in chapter 19:18 is this number reduced to 2. And Clemens Alexandrinus said that they represented the 2 hemispheres, and their wings the rapid movement of the firmament, and of time circulating in the zodiac. For Philo, speaking of the wings of the cherubim, says the heavens fly.